All right. So today I chose to do my topic on the expansion of the NHL, brief history. So I'd like to just give you a rundown on brief history of the expansion of the NHL. So the NHL began back in 1917 in Montreal, Quebec, led by a man named Frank Calder, and he is pictured. Unhappy with the current league, the NHA, National Hockey Association, 5 of the 6 teams' owners met together and started their own league because they didn't like the Toronto owner. So it was just a group of disgruntled team owners who wanted to, due to salary disputes, wanted to form their own league. In its inaugural season of 1917-18, it consisted of 4 teams: the Montreal Wanderers, the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, and the Toronto Arenas. It wasn't until the early 1940s, though, that hockey really started to take form. Like, these were formative years. The league had just began, so it was still figuring a lot of things out. And just a funny thing, because it's pictured, the Stanley Cup is there in the bottom right, and that is the Stanley Cup from 1917-18 when the Toronto Arenas won it. And just to say, it looks a lot different than it does now. So the early to mid 1900s. So the 1940s hockey began to truly take shape. There was now 6 teams, known as the original 6 nowadays. They consist of the Montreal Canadiens, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the New York Rangers, Chicago Blackhawks, Boston Bruins, and Detroit Red Wings. After numerous teams were renamed, relocated, or forced to fold, we were left with these guys. So the league, again, so it was at more formative years. It was this time span where dynasties were formed, and one of the greatest dynasties of all time, the Montreal Canadiens, they've had many dynasties in their history. They had the record for most Stanley Cups in a row, which they won 5 in a row from 1955 to 1960, which only one team has come close to since then. So it's pretty impressive, even though it was very early on in the sport. So the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, the original 6 would play each other full season and playoffs each year. And it's actually really interesting that during this span, the Bruins, Raiders, and Blackhawks only won 1 cup each. Everybody won at least one, but those 3 only won 1, where Detroit, Toronto, Montreal split all the others. But by 1967, the league had grown very popular, and so much so that they were in need of expanding. So they expanded to 6 more teams. And the expansion included the St. Louis Blues, who are pictured with the Boston Bruins there. It's really interesting. The Blues, in their first 3 seasons of inauguration, they made the Stanley Cup final each year, but they lost every one of them because they were completely outmatched, because they were just a brand new franchise, and the way the divisions were organized at the time, it didn't allow for them to even stand a chance. So that's game 4. They lost 4 games to 0 in a best-of-7 series, overtime. They made it to overtime in game 4, but Bobby Orr scored, defenseman tripped him, sent him flying through the air. It's one of the most iconic photos of all time now. So really interesting, as well as the fact that the St. Louis Blues, after going to the final in its first 3 years, didn't do it ever again until 2019, where they won the Stanley Cup, which it's really cool. So just a nice fact about them. So in 1971, though, another National Hockey Association, NHA, was formed, and this consisted of 14 different teams. It had some success. It saw a lot of current NHL stars at the time leave to go play in the NHA, one of which was Dave Keon, who was one of the greatest Toronto Maple Leafs of all time. So it was a big deal at the time, but by 1979, it had lost all traction. And the most interesting thing about it, though, is that 4 of the 14 teams that were in the NHA were then assimilated into the NHL. 3 of them were Canadian. One of them was the Edmonton Oilers, who had just acquired 17-year-old Wayne Gretzky. So it would have been really interesting to see if the NHA had lived 2 more years, the difference, they could still be around. If Wayne Gretzky played for the Edmonton Oilers of the NHA, it's just really weird reality to think about. So it's crazy to think about. So thought it was interesting. So over the next 20, 30 years, over the next 25 years, hockey would evolve and adapt to the norms of the time. They would also include, by 2001, they have expanded to 30 teams now, 6 of which are Canadian. So more expansion, more moving. A lot of teams relocated when were renamed, forced to fold as well. But it was another period of hockey's development that needed this time to grow. And I've pictured there the glow puck. It was an experiment in the 1990s where they had a highlight around the puck that would fly after the puck. And it's safe to say it did not go well. So it's just a really interesting experiment. It's highlighted by a time of experimentation for the NHL. But there's 2 lockouts following this. So in 2004 and 2005, the NHL, it proved to be a difficult financial situation. Salary disputes put a hold on the season. For the second time in history, no cup was awarded. The only other time was 1919 during influenza. Not even a decade later, though, after they settled the first lockout, which canceled a season and no Stanley Cup was awarded, like I said, 2012-13 season saw the first 34 games were canceled as well for the same types of reasons. Currently, the most recent expansion team was the Vegas Golden Knights in 2018, and the NHL is currently looking to expand to Seattle, which they have been approved for. They're just going to be introduced in the 2021-2022 season. So currently it looks like the NHL is doing really well right now, and it'd be really nice if they could keep on expanding and keep on making money so that the league doesn't face financial turmoil like it has. And thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you were informed.